I just want to talk to you a wee bit about your coursework. Um, as you know, the exams have been cancelled and the assessments have been cancelled. So, in a sense, your coursework's not going to be assessed in the traditional way. You're not going to do a moped test and so on. However, I still have to supply a grade for you based on how I think you would have achieved. Now, at the minute, you've all done a mock test where I can see how you're progressing there with the theory side of the exam. Um, but there's varying degrees of completedness with the coursework. And I think it would do you no harm to actually get the coursework finished off just so I can get an idea of how it would have progressed. Because at the minute, if I have nothing to work with, uh, it's very difficult for me to make a prediction as to how you would have achieved. And it's very difficult for me to prove that you would have achieved what I think you would have achieved. Okay, so remember, the exam is only worth 50% of this GCSE. The moped test is worth 25%, and the controlled assessment is worth 25%. I can just show you here where you can pick up your coursework. Your coursework, if you're on I'm on a tablet here, but if you're in your Google Classroom, and if you go to classwork, if you go to classwork and then scroll right down, you see controlled assessment investigative study, and there you can see your instructions, and here you've got a copy of your results, okay, which you can have a look at as well. So everything that you need is there, and your piece of work is there as well, and we're doing all this, remember, through Google Classroom. Right, if I just go out of that for a second and go into this to show you. Right, just starting off about what your coursework was designed to do. So I did split it up into a number of sections for you, and most of you have done the introduction and possibly the methodology, but I'll just step through this. If you want to skip past this for yourself, you can. But there's a piece at the end on conclusions and recommendations, which no one has done, I don't think, and this possibly is the bit that you'll need to concentrate on for most of you anyway. This is the bit that you'll need to do, but I'll come to that later. Right, so at the start of your coursework, you should have introduced the problem, described the problem that you'll be studying. You were studying seatbelt wearing rates. And you need to possibly describe what the law says about seatbelts. So have a look at the Highway Code and what it says. And if you look at NI Direct, the website NI Direct, you'll get information about seatbelts. So if you put in seatbelts NI Direct into Google, you should get some information there. And just about a general information about why people should wear seatbelts. You will find information online about the chances of what chances you have of getting killed in a car crash if you are wearing a seatbelt and if you aren't, and things like that. So maybe a wee bit of statistics would improve your answer. You don't need to do that, but if you do it, it improves it and gets a better mark. Right, the second section was looking at methodology, and methodology is describing how you carried out your study, okay? So we designed tally sheets, we decided where to stand, we split up into groups, we split the study up into sections. Some people would look at taxis, some people would look at commercial vehicles, some people would look at private cars and look at males and females and things like that. So just describing, stepping through it, how you did it. It's okay to use bullet points for this as well. This is a report you're writing, it's not an essay. So you can use bullet points when you're describing these things and subheadings and lay it out so it's easy to read. So describe how you will carry out your study. We made predictions and tested them. So you also made predictions about who would be better between males and females in wearing seatbelts, who would be better between the different types of vehicles, private cars, taxis, commercial vehicles. So we made predictions, and you're going to test those predictions. You're going to see if they're correct. Describe where you stood. Remember, there's photos as well of the area, or you could use Google Maps to show the area and take a screenshot and put that into your work. What we counted, how we counted, that's the tally sheets. Okay, things like that can all go in there into methodology. Right, your results and analysis. Right, results and analysis. You have a spreadsheet of results. Okay, and I'll look at that in a wee minute. And my advice to you was that you would take each of the predictions that you made and examine that using the data. Okay, so I predicted that males and females, or males would wear the seatbelt more often than females. And then go and have a look at what the data says. So let's scroll down here a wee minute and have a look at the data. And here's the data about males and females. And we can see that males wore a seatbelt, male drivers that is, wore seatbelt 75% of the time, and female drivers wore seatbelt 87% of the time. So females were actually better. Okay, so you would mention that in your results. Maybe draw a table, draw a graph for it, and then what you need to say then is explain what you found. Okay, why do you think females are better at wearing their seatbelts than male drivers? What could possibly explain that? Okay, so that's what you do in your results and analysis. You're analyzing your results. You're not just stating this is what we found. You're trying to work out why we found that. Now, the last section in your coursework are your conclusions and recommendations. And here I've said what you should do is you should summarize your key findings. Right, key findings. Summarize what you found. So at the very end, you would sum up and say, therefore, in summary, here is what the summary of what I found. I found that females were more likely to wear their seatbelts than male drivers. I found that taxi drivers were more likely to wear or were the least likely group, or whatever it is you find. Okay, and just step through it in bullet points. Bullets is fine for that. Okay, for that part. But then you've got to make recommendations, and I would do this on a separate page. And recommendations using the 3 E's. And the 3 E's are here: education, enforcement, and engineering. Okay? So you need to take each one of these and make recommendations about how you would improve seatbelt wearing rates. And you need to be specific about what you found in your study. So in our study, we found that males were less likely to wear their seatbelts than females. So education needs to focus on males. Okay, there was a campaign years ago about young boys speeding, and the campaign slogan was "Slow down, boys." It was very much focused on that group of people who were causing most accidents by speeding. So, can you think of an education campaign about how it would target males? Also, if we go back and look at our controlled assessment, we can see that if I can show you, commercial vehicles and taxis, the driver wearing rates are very, very poor compared to private cars. Okay, so how would you target commercial drivers and taxi drivers in terms of education? And education can be the form of TV ads, it can be the form of leaflets, anything like that. Okay. The second one there is enforcement. Enforcement really deals with the police. How should the police deal with seatbelt law offenders? Okay, what's the current penalty? Do you know what the current penalty is? If you don't, look it up. It'll be an NI Direct under seatbelts. Should the penalty be increased? Should there be a 3 strikes and you're out sort of system, whereby if you're caught without a seatbelt twice or 3 times, you lose your license, that type of thing. And engineering. How could cars or lorries or taxis be engineered to make more people comply with the seatbelt law? Okay, now I've already given you ideas about what you could talk about there, but go and have an investigation yourself and see if you can see if there's anything out there on the web about companies which are looking at ways to encourage people to wear seatbelts, or what technology is already used within cars and how that could be improved. Now, for this section, the 3 E's, some people do it in a very, very general way and get middling marks for it. The best responses are ones where you've done a bit of research and you've been very specific about what you found. So be specific about what you found in your study, okay? and try and do some research, okay, where you show some that you've done some work in terms of looking at the background of this and seeing how you could improve seatbelt wearing rates. Right, guys. So look, that is something that you could be working on over the next 3 to 4 weeks. It really is up to you at this point to try and secure the best possible grade at the minute. The grades are fairly good. There's a lot of C stars in terms of how you did out of that mock exam, but those C stars could easily change to B's and A's with a little bit of effort on this coursework. As I said to you before, this exam is 50% exam, or this course is 50% exam, 25% controlled assessment, and 25% moped. Now, if you think what you got in your exam at the moment, okay, you'll know the result of your test. I know that most of you will achieve near enough 25% in moped. Okay, it's this controlled assessment where I don't know how you're going to achieve. Now, I will be working out my predicted grade based on this. This is how I'll be making a predicted grade for you. So if you can do a bit of work on your controlled assessment, it will help you. If you decide to ignore this and don't do anything with it, well, I'll take that into account when I'm making my predicted grades. I take in a lot of things when I'm talking about predicted grades or making predicted grades. So I'll be looking at your attitude to work, your willingness to go that wee extra mile to do work for yourself and to improve. Okay, so look, that's something that you can be doing. So don't be sitting there at home saying that you've got nothing to do. You can be working away at that and improving, and I'll be having a wee look through at some stage and maybe get back to you and give you some feedback, okay? And if there's any questions that you have about it, stick them into Google Classroom. If I don't get questions, I can't give you answers. Don't sit there stuck. Ask me. Okay, guys. Best of luck.